and to end polio now within our district this year, in the hope that you will be further inspired to support your foundation and its work and help finally eradicate polio. I'm going to start with my story, the story of polio, and indeed how we hope to eradicate that. Like many in this room, I have heard this story of polio-endemic countries and how they have gradually been eroded from the globe, and the stories of how back in the day, over 1,000 children per day were being infected with polio. Now, some 30 years later, the numbers continue to fall. Does anyone in the room actually know what the numbers to date this year stand at? I'll tell you. We have had 41 reported cases of polio this year. And in those numbers, 9 were in Afghanistan, 32 were in Pakistan, and 0 in the rest of the world. That is how far we have come as Rotary in the eradication of polio. Rotary doesn't do it alone. Obviously countries come on board and governments help. Pakistan has a problem. But Pakistan this week, as we enjoy our conference, Pakistan is actually sending out 200,000 polio volunteers to do the work to vaccinate 35 million children. Now I find these numbers mind-boggling. I also find it mind-boggling that since 2003, Pakistan have actually spent some $60 billion to help eradicate polio, not just within Pakistan, but its transmission across the world. So with Rotary's help, with your help, each individual in this room contributes to that fight. How do we do it? We fund vaccines. How do we do it? Your donations to end polio now. They enable volunteers from our communities. They enable volunteers from our clubs to go out and work to act as vaccinators. Most recently, Colette O'Neill, a member indeed of Cork Bishopstown, has just returned from what is called a National Immunisation Day. Colette has been busy helping with the trips throughout conference and therefore cannot speak to you today about her experience. I would ask you, I would urge you to speak to Colette, and I am sure that at our future council meetings I will have Colette speak to you about that. Suffice to say, the next National Immunisation Day is next February. Mike Yates, RIBI, coordinates that, so anybody else who would like to attend, please ensure you speak to Colette. Clubs are also helping. Crocuses have been purchased to be planted in your local communities. I have quite a few boxes sitting in my garage ready for distribution. They arrived actually 2 days ago. And thanks to the help of one of our Rotarians' husband, I have 4 boxes to distribute to clubs who actually supported that again recently. So they're ready to go. I've mentioned the problem of polio transmission in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But what about polio cases across the rest of the world? Watch the next 40 seconds for some more good news. Seconds to tell us that Africa is now 1 year polio-free. That's a major achievement. And if we continue with this, we are going to eventually win this battle against polio. So I urge you, finally, on Polio Day, World Polio Day, October 24th, please do your best to wear something purple, celebrate with your communities and help us win that battle. And finally, just to finish our foundation presentation, Dave is going to give you some more good news. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Patricia. Good afternoon. My name is Dave Murray. Dale said that the critical question is why. Why People want to know why. And in this case, why does foundation exist? Why is foundation important? Well, Patricia's given you one good answer to that question, which is that without the financial resources that we contribute to foundation, and without its organisation and infrastructure, this could not have happened. But it's not only about big projects. That is a huge project. It's a multi-year major project. But there are other things that foundation helps us to achieve and to deliver. Some of these we've heard about, but to put it in context, this year at the district level, we have just given $43,000 in grants to 9 club projects. And I think a number of the people who are involved in those projects are in the room. So I look forward to reporting back in future on how those projects go. In addition to that, global grant applications impact on district projects that we've heard about. In 2 ways. There are 3 Rotary clubs mentioned here, Newry, Dundalk and Dingle, all of whom have donated money directly to district projects supported by foundation, driven outside of this country. There are others, 5 in particular, district projects that we've heard about. Now, for the eagle-eyed among you, the water has become oxygen in this slide. O2 actually refers to H2O that Sean told you about. 538 and sand dams, all water projects in Africa, you heard about those today. And they are being aided by money coming back to us from foundation. In addition, East Timor, people I think have been hearing about for a long time. The East Timor project has finally gone ahead and has been completed, which is also good news to be giving, so the money has now been spent. And there are others. So let's take a quick look at a couple of examples. A number of years ago, a young man from Dublin was travelling through Uganda and he became seriously ill. He was treated and he convalesced in Uganda. And as he was convalescing, he saw around him that people were dying. Parents were dying, leaving orphan children behind. Children were dying. HIV, AIDS, malaria, and a whole range of other conditions. And he was an interesting guy because he came back and thought he'd do something about it. So he did. And he used his network. He was a paediatric nurse. He used his network to persuade medical professionals in Ireland to go to Uganda and provide their services free of charge, to provide clinics to people who needed their services. But that wasn't enough. So he began to fundraise and get money, and decided that using other people's facilities was not the way to go, and maybe this place could do with a decent medical centre. And we as a club in Dublin Fingal became involved with this. The building you see there was built. One of our members went out and was the site engineer for a large part of that build. So it was a hands-on involvement in doing it. And we also raised some money. And we were going to give them that money to do something with, something useful. And we then thought, no, we might be able to grow that money. Well, with the aid of District and Foundation, that relatively small amount of money which we had raised, which was about 10,000, became 37,000. And that 37,000 was used to buy equipment that you see actively in use in the middle photograph on the bottom. However, at an early stage of this, he asked me to write a letter to the Japanese embassy to tell them what we were doing, which I did. And then there was another letter to the Japanese embassy. I was just following his instructions. And we then discovered that the Japanese had decided that on foot of our decision to provide the equipment, they would provide $165,000 to build the second half of that building, the bit over on the left, the fancy bit. So that's all happened. That was opened on the 4th of September, thanks to us, thanks to Rotary, thanks to Foundation, by the President of Uganda. So, a good story. Here are a couple of the 9 grants I referred to, the stories that I hope we'll be coming back to in a year's time. Lurgan. The Rotary Club of Lurgan have a long association with a school in a very, very impoverished area of Lima in Peru. A grant has gone to them to drive a project to provide IT and educational facilities to that school. That is a story we'll be coming back to. Another, the Rotary Club of Kilkenny. This is a local project. Not all projects have to be big, not all of them are international. This is very much a local project, dear to the heart of the Rotary Club of Kilkenny. A special school catering for kids with special educational needs, and without the IT facilities that are needed for education today. So, they identified that 10 grand would solve this problem, with additional resources being provided by the club and the school, free of charge. And district have now provided a 6,000 grant for that project. One we will hear more of again, I hope. And congratulations to Kilkenny on that. The Rotary Club of Enniskillen, great supporters of the Foundation, great supporters of international projects, you've heard. But here's a local project that the Enniskillen Club are now taking on. In a daycare centre to create a facility where people can enjoy the open air, where they can be educated through the use of a sensory garden, using raised beds that are wheelchair accessible. Large project, not entirely dissimilar to one that was done locally in Dublin in the Central Medieval Clinic a couple of years ago, but it's a really interesting project. It's going to cost quite a lot of money, and again, the district grant has gone to that, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that since they expect to complete the project next spring. So, I hope that Patricia and I, and these stories, have reminded you why Foundation is important, why Foundation is not just a remote thing, why Foundation can and will be involved in many, many of the things we do now and in the future. Thank you very much indeed, and keep giving.